Hi, I'm Marco Lys and welcome to my studio in the sunny Vittorio Veneto in Italy. Today we are gonna see how I made the tracks The Story Continues and Broken Studio. Here we go. Okay, we are now talking about The Story Continues, a track I released last year on Bambossa Records, Harry Romero's label. And the track did really well, and the idea came from an original track from Lee Lewis. I did the cover version, adding some new elements with a sexy saxophone and cool vocal loops. So we are now looking to the drums of the track that, are this. And the drums are basically made from kick, some I-opens, some hi-hat. I used to spread, left and right and left to have a very stereo image. Some tambourines, some rides, and some claps. What I do usually is to group the kick with the bass line. Here are the bass. Okay. So to do that, I do a group I call drums, but I can call whenever I want, and I use the glue to literally glue the sounds, the kick and the drum. And what I do is to also add on the bass, to add a side chain, like you can see, just a very gentle side chain. When the kick comes in, the bass goes a little bit down, so there's room for each sound. Okay, so this is a rendered part of the bass, because the original one is from Trilogy, is not working on Cubase 10 anymore. So I did a render, but I did a version with this plugin from sounded quite the same from where is it? On Spire. Okay, by sounding quite the same. This is Spire, this is... Okay. So as I said, I used to group the kick and the bass, and with the group, okay, here with the glue plugin. I used to group the kick and the bass because on the breakdowns, it's cool to have like this, I use the Fabfilter micro filter to give the effect, for the tension on the breakdowns. Listen. Okay, so working together with the bass is something like this. Let me show you again. The other drums, like I-opens, I-opens, I-close, tambourine, rides, okay. I used to group them on another group I call Groove, of course, with the glue. Here is not working, but just to, to glue the tracks together, And even here, I show you, I use some sands to make them working on the breakdowns like this. Let me show you on the breakdown. Or filter as well, with some automations. And also I used to give, on the bass, on the drum bass, on the group bass, I used to spread the stereo image with a plugin. It's a free plugin from Brainworks. It's called BX Solo. It's just a little touch of stereo widening. And all the times, the thing I do is to check if it works in mono. I use this Cubase plugin. It's basically a stereo enhancer. I use in mono. So I can listen mono, stereo, to avoid any phase cancellation. I have to tell you, Cubase 10 from, I guess, Cubase 9 has this new feature, the low window, you know, the low section. You can see the mixer, you can see the editor or the sample control, the chord pads. This is very good, but I'm used to the old version where pressing F3 opens the big one, you know, so you will see the big mixer on the window, but I used to do this way. So for my drums, I mostly of the time I using Groove Agent SE, you know, which is really cool, because you can load, you know, your samples, you can give different outputs like the claps, the closed, you know. So when you listen to the drums, you see basically the pad lightning, okay? And on the mixer, these are the, you know, the exit. So this, as I show you, the drums are going to the drums bass. You can see it here. The drum bass, you know, with some automations. The I opens on the groove bass, you know. So the trick I use on the drums is the parallel compression technique. To do that, if you see now, you know, that are sounding the kick, the groove, and this group is the parallel compression. I used to do that, the premix from computer music. You can find on any computer music issue, I guess. Basically, the groove is sounding, you know. Okay, let's find a good section. This one is good. Let's put in loop. So let's take the. Okay, and as well the groove. Okay, this is how the parallel compression channel sounds. Basically, I give a very high gain, so it's a saturation I give to the sound. I cut down the low hands, and I basically, so this is the parallel compression drums. When I groups, sorry, no, okay, sorry, stereo out. Basically, this is how it sounds with the parallel compression. Can you listen to the difference? It gives more bite to the drums. Okay. So basically, I used to spread the sounds to different channels of the mixer, you know, to have more control, you know, on the frequencies of the sounds like I had. What I do is to cut out like okay. I cut out, you know, all the hi-hats. The frequencies below 900 Hz, it depends, you know, the sounds, of course. I give a little bit of reverb as well, just to make it less dry. Okay, so this is what I do on the drums, basically. I love rolling drums, you know. What I use is the swing. Cubase has a very good, you know, swing session. You can personalize here, you know. On this project I used a 50% swing. It means that I can show you the difference, especially on the hi-hats. Okay, so let me play both. As you can see on the grid, there's a little delay on the second and on the fourth beat section. I show you the regular. Let me show you. You know, this is the 16. So I show you how they sound with a. Okay, this is how they sound. They're quite straight, you know. Even if I use it to give some velocity, you know, changes to make them, you know, more real. When you add, in this case, 50%. Where you add a swing, let's do on the other channel as well. Listen to the difference. They are more, you know, rolling. When I do swing, I do on every section of the track, you know, even on audio, because the good thing, let me show you. Okay, on the groove, this one. Okay. This one is basically some percussions. The good thing that Cubase, and only on Cubase I could find, is to split the audio, you know, into, with hit points, into audio sections, to keep inside the section on this section, okay. And I can quantize with the same swing I used on the whole project. So as you can see, there's a 50%. Let me show you with the straight 16. Okay, this is how it will sound without swing, and this with the swing. Okay, maybe there are some other sections you can, let me see, on the right, yeah, the right, straight 16, no, okay, with the swing, you know, more jazzy, more cool. I do the same with the bass, as you can see. Let me show you straight 16. Okay, this is, and this with the swing. Listen to the magic. Okay, in some projects I can use 50%, some others 10%, 20%. It depends, you know, about the feel I want to give to the track. So what I do on the claps, on the snares, is to play them a little bit earlier on the grid. So this is the result. You know, here there are some 3 claps playing together. You know, as for the reason to give more stereo image to the sound, and they are playing a little bit before the grid. So as you can see, this clap, this is the 0 point is playing a little bit earlier. Even this one. Okay, you can move this point, you can quantize, so you can all the times have the, you know, if you, for example, if you copy the sample on another part, you will have the same Q point, quantized point. But of course, the strong part of the song is the saxophone. What I did is to replay the saxophone. Okay. Here we have the original parts. I then glued together, you know, because there was a lot of takes, you know, and it was a lot of work to you know, to grab the good parts, the good session, and I did some, let me see if I can, okay, some tuning adjustment thanks to the Vari audio. Okay, as you can see, there are some, I kept some notes on purpose, you know, not straight, you know, not quantized, to give, you know, the real feel, but this is a real saxophone played. So, and so this is the final result. Okay. So basically, to make the saxophone so sexy, I added to it some okay, on the group. Okay, added some delay, some reverb, and some automations, you know, to make it more live, you know. So as you can see, running, you know, on the project, Yeah, here you can see the automations, because this is the drop. To give, you know, to give it the tension. So the delay I've added to the saxophone. Yeah, I use all the effects like reverb and delays as sound effects, like the old way, you know. So I basically use 6 effects, you know, to do my tracks. All the times I start from a template of mine, you know, with some basic compressions like the groups I showed before. With effects, I use the, I don't know if the name is right, but Walala Room, okay. Then I use, okay, so no, sorry, this one is not the one. The ping-pong delay from Cubase. I use the Arts Acoustic, that is really, really good, and I love the sound it has. And then another one for the long delay. No, sorry, not this one. This one, you know, with a very long decay time, you know, for some sections that needs, you know, more atmosphere. And I found this cool plugin for Waves, the Many Marroquin. I don't know if the name is right. I use for, you know, adding some some automations like, okay, or this one. So the trick is giving life to the music, giving automations, you know, to make the sounds live. It took, you know, a lot of time to not to record that, because the saxophone player is a really, really good one, but in audio editing, because as you can see, there are a lot of sections, you know, a lot of takes I had to cut and you know, and put together and glue together. To process the sound, I use this channel, okay. I use some plugins. I use a gate, you know, to take out the noise, because when I did the recording, it was on this room that is not, you know, soundproof. So there are some room ambience, but at the end it sounded good on the recording, you know, because so the saxophone isn't so dry. But anyway, I cut some, you know, as you can see, some noises out of the sound. And then I used the glue. Here the compression is quite heavy, as you can see, to bring, you know, the sound, you know, in front, in your face, with very hard setting, you know, low threshold, quite fast attack, fast release, high ratio, and premix is quite, you know, often in my projects. I gave to some saturation to the sound, a little bit of high hands and and mid frequencies. You can listen to the difference. I use equality, is not a very good EQ. I cut out some low frequencies below 120. I gave some presence to around 5K Hz, and I cut down over 30K Hz, you know. This is bypass. You know, it's more light into the sound. I used the Cubase Eq, which is very good, just to give a little boost around 200 Hz. I give that boost because I have to be honest, the saxophone player told me that is a frequency where the saxophone is sounding well. So I heard his suggestion, I gave to a little boost on around 200 Hz. And then Fabfilter Micro, a filter, because in some sections there's on the breakdowns especially, you know, to make the build up, I use the filter. And of course some automations on delay and reverbs. Actually, this is very this section that is quite hard to, with these shouts, you know. It wasn't easy, you know, to get the notes. So I had to use a plugin to replace some notes. I don't have it, but it's a saxophone plugin. I had to play the notes, you know, to add to the original ones to make them, you know, as I wanted to do them. I know it's not a good practice, but when I start a project, I already start with the mastering change on the master. So just because I want to feel how the track sounds, you know, how it's, you know, I will sound already mastered. So I always use the Fabfilter, the Pro Q is a very, very good plugin with, you know, I cut the low hands, I cut the high hands. Another trick I use is to cut, you know, to make a little hole on around 240 Hz, you know, and give a little bit of punch, but just a gentle punch about around 80 Hz, you know, just less than half dB. And another, you know, punch at around 3,500, you know, but it depends about the project, you know. Sometimes I can give on 2,000 or 7,000, and I cut the high hands, you know. Even here it depends about the project, and on this case I cut up over 7K, you know, 7K50. You can see even here is a very, very gentle compression. I used to glue, you know, all the tracks together. So my settings are this. You can see. I give, you know, just, you know, there's a very, very small movement here. I set the threshold at about -10 dB. You know, a very short attack, a very slow release. Just, you know, for to let the peaks comes up. Another one is the Fabfilter Pro L. I think this is the best limiter for me, you know, because it's very transparent, it's very punchy. You can get very good level without any distortion. And as I show you, I use all the times to do, you know, some stereo mono check, you know, A/B check, just to avoid any frequency, you know, cancellation. We are now looking the vocal elements I've added to the track. I use the sample. Okay, saying pocus is no sense vocal, but it fits really well on the track. So to do that, first of thing, I pitched it down to match the track key, because the original one was sounding like this. Okay. And also it wasn't in time, because it was a little bit, you know, as you can see, the original. Okay, so I had to cut. Let me undo. To cut it and put it on the grid, always at, you know, 50% swing. So let me pitch it down. Okay, so transpose -2. You know. I gave to it some automation, you know, some on the volume, and here on the breakdown, on the delay, and on reverb as well. Okay. So how did I find the key of the sample, the note of the sample? As I'm not a very good musician, I use the Cubase tools, you know, and the good one is the Vari Audio. So it can detect, you know, the key, the notes of the sample, so I can see as the song is playing on B, you know, on key in B minor, and the sample is in C, as you can see, in C sharp. So I had to transpose two half tones, two semitones down. Okay, so but the original sample had a very high S, you know, so I had to use a de-esser. In this case I used the Waves de-esser. As you can see, it's working on the S. If I bypass, okay, just a little touch, but you know, just it fits well on the track. And I also use the pan pot, auto pan from Cubase, to make it, you know, spreading left and right and left. Okay. This track has always a string, a nice string, always present on the whole song. You know, as you can see, is this green. You know, to do that, I use this Roland plugin. It's an old one, but I'm mostly using for the strings. You know, it has a very good sound. I think they are coming from D50, Roland old D50, but anyway, they are really good. So they are recorded, you know, live and then recorded into audio. And you know, to make them more, can I say, vibrant. I added a premix to make them, you know, dirty, and a chorus, you know, from TL8 that I guess is the same chorus as the Juno 106. It should be the same, but you know, to make it, as you can see, you know, it's just a cool chorus. So here you can. So for the drum roll, I just mess it out with the keyboard, you know, playing some random notes until they sounded good, and then this is the final result. So some of them are not quantized, but just to give the real, you know, the human feel. But you know, even some of them are quantized or always at 50%. You know, as you can listen to the track, you know, there are some crowd, you know, always shouting and whistling and blah 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 all over the track. So okay, so basically, there are some samples I find out from my library. Actually, they are from Vengeance. And let me show you, you know, I gave some automations because they are starting, you know, slowly coming up on the track. There's a filter going there. Very slow. I used two tracks to do that because they are different crowds, to make them, you know, live, to not always sounding the same. So I used the cool function on Cubase is the crossfading, so you can glue or you can overlap two samples and pressing. Let me show you. Okay. It's the same one, fading down and fading up, you know, it's like a mixing. To have better view of the project, I used to group the parts, the tracks, on folders. So I used to do the drum folder with all the drums elements, the synth folder with all the synth stuff, with the bass, the saxophone, and all the synth stuff, the strings as well, and the effects. So for the effects, I've used the retro look for the white noise. This is basically a preset of mine. I did, let me show you. Okay, a very basic white noise, you know. You can listen here. Okay, and with an auto pan effect, you know, to make it right to the left, and an EQ cutting down low frequencies below 500 Hz and over 15,000 Hz, just, you know, to clean the sound a little bit. And yeah, the other effects are basically some, you know, white noise, like this one. It's the one that leads to the or the long one to build tension before the breakdown. Okay, let's talk about the structure, the track structure. As any house or tech house or techno track, it has an intro. It has the breakdowns to build tension, and then the drops. And basically, this track has three breakdowns. One small, one very short one at the beginning. Another one in the middle, probably yeah, the strongest one. And the last one is the longest one. To build tension, you know, like this, you can listen to. Okay, so on the drums, yeah, I use the Fabfilter Micro filter, you know, to cut down the low ends on the kick and the bass. And as you can listen, there's some delay. To build the, you know, the breakdown, I use on the groups, on the groove, and on the drums. I use automation to the reverb. So this is how it sounds. You know. And then when it starts, you know. I also like here. I used to, you know, to going down with the kick and the bass volume, as you can see here, and then here is the automation on the filter. So it's sounding, you know, with a high pass filter and very, very low volume. Same as, you know, the groove that is. For the groove I used low pass filter, you know, as you can listen, is going down, and then going up when it's, you know, with a jump from here to the drop, you know. So to make like an explosion. Also, a good thing using groups is what I do, of course, using a sidechain group, you know, because of the stuff that needs sidechain from the kick, like the crowd, the vocals. I use, you know, the Cubase compressor, you know, drive by the kick. Okay, let me show you with the. This is with extreme levels, you know. Just use very gentle. This is on the purpose to give the mix room for every instrument, every sound on the mix. So what I use to analyze the frequencies of the sounds is this it's not a plugin, it's a program itself, running itself. It's called a Penguin Audio Meter, and as you can see, I can see, you know, the frequencies, so I know that the kick is sounding good, you know, when it works on these frequencies, on, you know, on this red area, on these frequencies. Same thing as, you know, the eye open, you know. It's a bit, because I don't have two monitors, I just have to swap, you know, from a window to the other, but I used to do that, so it's not a problem for me. But as you can see, you know, the hi-hats is good when it reaches minus 30 dB, you know, as well as I can see on the claps, you know, this is a good frequency for the claps. And of course, all the times I do A, B with other tracks, you know, use as references. So good is a correlation meter, because I can see if the sound is out of correlation, out of phase, or is good, you know. You can see the difference playing, you know, the track in stereo. Is in stereo, is, you know, from 0 to +1. If you play in mono, you see that +1 means that it's mono signal. Okay. This is all for now, but make sure you come back for part 2.